Good morning. Welcome to Anita's online academy. This video is for class 10th subject science and chapter is chapter 6 life processes. In my previous video we had talked about respiration definition and respiration in various organisms, and at the end we were talking about human respiratory system, and in this video that is in previous video we had discussed about the structure of human respiratory system, and now in this video we will be talking about mechanism or working of human respiratory system. And children, I have drawn here all the diagrams together because had I drawn the diagrams with explanation the video would have gone very long. So let's start now. In short, I will revise the structure also. Nose has two openings called nostrils. Nostrils open into nasal passage and nasal passage open into pharynx, and while discussing digestive system also we had discussed that buccal cavity and nasal passage both open into pharynx with separate openings, gullet and glottis. So this nasal passage opens into pharynx through glottis, and on this glottis muscular lid is provided which is known as epiglottis, and it prevents the food from entering the nasal tract while swallowing the food. Okay, then pharynx opens into trachea in case of respiratory system. In trachea cartilaginous rings are there which are C-shaped and they do not let the trachea collapse. Then trachea divides into in our chest area the trachea divides into two bronchi. The singular is bronchus. Each bronchus enters into lung of its own side. Inside the lung, bronchi divide and again and again, and finally the narrowest tubules are called respiratory tubules, which do not further divide but end or open in alveoli or air sac. Singular is alveolus or air sac, plural is air sacs or alveoli, and these alveoli are always filled with air and their walls are very thin, and in this thin wall there is a dense network of blood capillaries, and blood capillaries are filled with blood and they help in exchange of gases. Now children, this is done. Yes, now these lungs are protected inside rib cage. If you touch your chest area and press it, you will feel something hard from there. So there are ribs, you all must know, and lungs and the heart which is present between the lungs, they are protected by ribs cage. So here I have drawn a rough diagram of rib cage. Rib cage is made up of I can say it is composed of first thing is backbone, sternum. What is backbone? Backbone you all know, vertebral column, backbone, and in our anterior part, in our chest area, there is another bone called sternum. Okay, now the ribs are connected at the back to the backbone and in front to the sternum. Okay, backbone is in our back. It is a long bone which runs from below the head into the neck and back and lumbar region. So in the whole back there is a long bone called backbone, and this backbone is made up of many small bones, due to which this backbone is flexible and we can bend our body in different directions. So in the back there is backbone which is a long bone made up of very small bones, and in front in chest area there is another bone called sternum. Ribs are connected to bones on one side and to sternum on other side, that is in back they are connected to backbone, in front they are connected to sternum. This way they make a hollow structure or a hollow box called rib cage, in which lungs and heart are enclosed and they are protected. Now children, just below the rib cage there is a muscular structure, dome shaped muscular structure called diaphragm. Children, the chest area is known as thoracic cavity and the abdominal area or belly area is known as abdominal cavity. So the lungs and heart are enclosed in rib cage, and this whole arrangement is located in our chest cavity or thoracic cavity, and this thoracic cavity is separated from abdominal cavity by a muscular structure called diaphragm. Okay, so at rest diaphragm is dome shaped and the ribs rest on the diaphragm. Also children, ribs rest on the diaphragm. I hope now it is clear how the box is formed. The box is this is a closed box, you can say, rib cage, which is tightly closed from anterior part by neck. It is closed by diaphragm on posterior part, and it is closed from dorsal side. This back side is called dorsal side. From dorsal side it is closed by backbone. From ventral side it is closed by sternum, and laterally it is closed by ribs cage. This way a rib cage is formed. One more important thing children, this arrangement is inside this rib cage. So these lungs are covered with a membrane called pleural membrane. Okay, and this pleural membrane is attached to inner part of ribs. Got it? Pleural membrane is attached to inner part of ribs. That means whenever there will be any movement in ribs, then lungs, there will be a movement in lungs also. One more important thing, this was the front view of rib cage. Now this is the lateral view. Suppose an animal, here it is an animal, and it is its back, and it is its ventral part. Okay, so this animal is like this. So if we see from side, then its back will be here, sternum will be here, and ribs will be going like this and like this in this side and this side. These are called lateral side. So this is the animal, this is the backbone, this is the sternum, and here the ribs are there. So this is the situation in this diagram. Here it is the backbone, this is the sternum, and these are the ribs which are connected on back to the backbone and in front to the sternum. Now notice one thing, that and here it is the diaphragm. Diaphragm will look like this. Now the position in which we have taken this diagram, in this case diaphragm will be like this here. Okay, now children, between two ribs, each of the pair of ribs, there is a pair of bundle of muscles. Okay, one is this and other is this. They are located at right angle to each other. What is special about these muscles? The names and other details you will know in class 12th. Here only I can tell you only that these muscles are at right angle to each other, and when one muscle contracts, that is, I should say, when one bundle of muscles contracts, the other bundle of muscles will relax, and when the other bundle of muscles will contract, then the first one will relax. Okay, now what is the role of all these muscles, and how do we respire? This thing I will explain you just now. I hope now it is clear. Okay, that what are the various connections. One more thing, I told you that diaphragm is also a muscular structure, so it is also capable of contraction and relaxation, and whenever there are muscles, they will always contract and relax, and always there will be some movement. So let us see how this mechanism of respiration takes place. Before that, let us understand that respiration gets completed in 3 steps. Number 1 is breathing. Okay. Number 2 we can say exchange of gases. Exchange of gases. We can take these 2 parts as sub parts of the breathing also, no problem, or we can take them as separate parts. And number 3 is cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. Okay. So children, now let us see the first step, breathing. Breathing means to take in air and to give out air. We always say that we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. It is not so. We actually take in air. We cannot select the oxygen from air and take it only, and we cannot select the carbon dioxide. So actually we take in air, and as we know the composition of air, the amount or the we can say concentration of oxygen is more. Concentration of oxygen is more in incoming air, that is the air which is present around us. That air has 21% oxygen and some 0.3% carbon dioxide. So the concentration of oxygen in our surrounding air is higher as compared to carbon dioxide. And when we say that air we give out carbon dioxide, no, we give out air only, but this outgoing air contains more carbon dioxide and less oxygen. Now let us see what is all that. See children, when we breathe in, this process is called inspiration. Okay. So air enters from nose, passes through nasal passage, then it goes to trachea, bronchi, and finally reaches to air sacs. Okay. Inside the air sacs, this air is fully filled. Okay. Now this air contains oxygen into it. So this whole phenomena, this whole process of coming of air or rushing of air from nose to air sacs, it is, how does it happen? Why does it happen? What are the various movements because of which the air rushes inside our body? So let us understand. I have told you I am talking about inspiration, that is taking in air. Respiration has 3 steps: breathing, exchange of gases, and cellular respiration. First of all, we are talking about breathing. Breathing means taking in and giving out air. So this process of breathing can be divided into 2 parts. Taking in air is called inspiration. Giving out air is called expiration. Now let us see how inspiration takes place. It can be called as inspiration and expiration also. Okay, so let us see how inspiration or inspiration takes place. Here, this is the ribs cage. Here it is the diaphragm. Diaphragm at rest is dome shaped. When it contracts, it becomes flat, a little flat. In this diagram also you can say it has become a little flat. So when it becomes a little flat, then it creates upward pressure on the ribs. At the same time, one bundle of the muscles between the ribs also contracts, and this contraction causes, because of this contraction of muscles between the ribs, the sternum moves forward and outward. The sternum, which is present in chest, it moves forward and outwards. Okay. So what has happened? The diaphragm which is present just below the thoracic cavity has become flat. Okay. And at the same time, contraction of some muscles between the ribs is taking place. Fine. Because of which the ribs will move outwards. Ribs will move outwards and upwards, and also the sternum will move outward and forward. So by all these movements, what will happen? The area of thoracic cavity will increase, and when the area of thoracic cavity will increase, I had told you that lungs are having pleural membrane, and this pleural membrane is attached to ribs. As a result, when rib cage moves upward and outward, the pleural membrane also moves outward. As a result, the volume of lungs also increases, and when the volume of lungs increases, the pressure of air inside the lungs also the pressure of air inside the lungs decreases. You know why? Because the air which was filled earlier inside the lungs was occupying a small space because lungs were smaller. But now, because volume of lungs has increased, that means the same air has now spread into a bigger volume. As a result, the pressure of air inside the lungs decreases. And what is the tendency of air? That it always moves from an area of higher pressure to area of lower pressure. So outside the area of higher pressure is there, and inside the lungs the area of lower pressure is there. So as a result, the air from outside rushes into our lungs, and this way the inspiration takes place. Now we come to expiration or expiration. It is just opposite to inspiration, that this diaphragm which had become flattened or straight, now it relaxes, and as it relaxes, it comes in the shape of diaphragm. It comes in the shape of a dome. The diaphragm comes in the shape of a dome. So when it comes in the shape of dome, that means the volume of thoracic cavity has decreased from downwards, from we can say, because it becomes dome shape, so it has moved upward. Diaphragm has moved upward. As a result, the area, or I should say volume of thoracic cavity has decreased. At the same time, another bundle of muscles will contract, and when the another bundle of muscles will contract, the previous bundle will relax, the ribs will move back to their original position. That is, earlier they had moved upward and outward, now they come back to their original position. They come back closer to backbone and sternum. Now in this case, sternum which had moved upward and forward comes again to its original position. So now sternum and ribs and this dome shaped diaphragm, they all are in their original position, and as a result the volume of rib cage has decreased, and because the volume of rib cage has decreased, the volume of lungs has also decreased. So now the air which was earlier filled in lungs, which were having more space, which were having more volume, now has occupied the less space. So now, because the air has got less space or less volume, naturally this air will cause pressure. So now inside the lungs there becomes the area of higher pressure, and outside our body there is area of lower pressure, and as it is the tendency of air, it rushes from the area of higher pressure to area of lower pressure. So the air will rush out. It will follow the opposite path from bronchi, trachea and nose. It will rush outward. This way the expiration takes place. Got it? So this is all about breathing. Now we come to exchange of gases. Children, I have told you that air rushes inside the lungs. The air which is rushing inside the lungs, it enters the air sacs, and air sacs are fully filled with air. And I had told you that air sacs have thin walls, okay, and these thin walls are provided with dense network of blood capillaries also. So when air sacs are fully filled with air, this air exerts pressure on the walls of air sacs. So when air exerts the pressure on the walls of air sacs, the blood capillaries which are present in the wall of air sacs, in those blood capillaries, the oxygen present in air will diffuse into those blood capillaries. Now again the question arises, when the air contains all the gases, why only oxygen diffuses into the blood capillaries? The answer is there. Our blood contains a pigment called hemoglobin, which provides red color to our blood, and this hemoglobin has affinity with oxygen and carbon dioxide only. It has affinity with oxygen and carbon dioxide only means it can combine with oxygen and carbon dioxide only, so that it can carry it to different parts. Okay, so children, when air sacs are fully filled with air, at that time in the walls of air sacs, the blood capillaries which are present, they are having some blood in them, and this blood has come from various parts of our body. So when it is coming from various parts of body, it is having a lot of amount of carbon dioxide in it, which it has brought from all the parts of body. Okay, so inside air sacs, air which has come from outside, this air is having oxygen in more concentration, and the air which is present inside the blood capillaries is having only carbon dioxide. So naturally the concentration of oxygen, when we see in reference of blood capillaries, inside the blood capillaries the concentration of carbon dioxide is higher. Outside the blood capillaries, that is inside the air sac, the concentration of oxygen is higher. And what is the tendency of gases? That they diffuse from the area of their higher concentration to the area of their lower concentration. So from air sac, the oxygen which is in higher concentration will diffuse into the blood capillaries through its walls. At the same time, the carbon dioxide which is present inside the blood is having concentration more than the air filled in air sacs. That is, concentration of carbon dioxide in air filled in air sacs is less than the concentration of carbon dioxide inside the blood which is filled in blood capillaries. As a result, the carbon dioxide will diffuse out into the air which is filled in air sacs. So these two phenomena are taking place together, and this is known as exchange of gases, the second step. Okay, so how does the exchange of gases take place? In short, air is filled in air sacs. The concentration of oxygen in this air which has come from the surrounding air, the concentration of oxygen is higher. Inside the blood capillaries, concentration of carbon dioxide is higher. So the carbon dioxide will move out of blood capillaries because it will diffuse from area of higher concentration to area of lower concentration. In the same way, oxygen from air sacs will move into blood capillaries because it will also move from area of higher concentration to lower concentration. Now what has happened, children? The oxygen has got mixed with blood into blood capillaries. The blood will be circulated to all the parts of body, but before that, this blood in which the oxygen is mixed, this is now called oxygenated blood. and this oxygenated blood will go to heart, and from heart it will be circulated to all the parts of body. How does this process occur? That we will see in circulatory system. So I think exchange of gases is clear. Now with blood the oxygen reaches to all the parts of body, means the oxygen reaches to each and every cell of our body. Now in each and every cell of our body already the glucose is present, which has been brought from the blood, which is coming from digestive system. Okay, so inside the cells glucose is present and the oxygen is given by respiratory system. This oxygen will burn the glucose to give carbon dioxide and water and energy, and this is called the cellular respiration. What is cellular respiration? Cellular respiration is breaking down of glucose into carbon dioxide and water to produce energy, which will be used for various vital activities. Okay, cellular respiration, all these three steps we have discussed, and I hope now it is clear to you. One more thing children, while talking about the types of respiration in reference of presence or absence of air, I had told you two types of respiration, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration takes place in some small bacteria and some microorganisms, in absence like in some fungus also, like yeast, etc. So those microorganisms which are called anaerobic organisms, they respire in absence of oxygen. But in case of us, we always respire in presence of oxygen or in presence of air. But children, sometimes our muscles also undergo anaerobic respiration. When does it happen? Children, when we do a lot of physical work, like you are running very fast or you are doing hard physical exercise, okay, or some running, jumping, dancing, whatever physical hard work you are doing, after that you get tired and you have to take rest and you feel a lot of pain in your muscles, and when you take rest for some time, then you feel relaxed and you become normal. So what is all that? Children, when you do hard physical work like running, doing exercise, some sports, dancing, all that, swimming, why do we get tired? Because when we are doing all these activities, we are making movements very fast, and you know, for making movements or doing any type of work we need energy, and we get energy from cellular respiration. And how does cellular respiration takes place? By breaking down of glucose into carbon dioxide and water in presence of oxygen. That means when we are doing hard physical work we need more energy. That means the glucose will burn faster, and when it will burn faster it will need oxygen supply faster. It will need oxygen supply faster. So we start breathing faster. When we do such breathing, physical activities, we start breathing also faster. But children, in spite of breathing faster, this oxygen is also not sufficient to meet the energy requirement of our body. So what happens? The muscles which are present deep inside our hands and legs and other body parts, they start to respire anaerobically. That is, they start respiring without oxygen, because till the oxygen reaches to deep muscles, it is already consumed. So the muscles are not getting proper supply of oxygen, but they need energy because movements are done, so energy is needed. So they start respiring anaerobically to produce energy. As a result, I had told you that when anaerobic respiration takes place, glucose does not break down completely, but it breaks down partially. So when it breaks down partially, that means it does not completely divide into carbon dioxide, does not breaks down completely into carbon dioxide and water, but some intermediate product like alcohol etc. are formed. In our case, in our muscle, an acid is formed called lactic acid. This lactic acid, as the amount of lactic acid increases, we feel fatigue, we feel tired, and we have to take the rest. After doing such a physical work, after taking rest, after taking bath, what we feel? We again feel normal. We again breathe normally, and we do not feel tired. What happens? When we take rest, we are getting oxygen supply. It starts breaking down glucose again, and it reaches to all the parts of body. So the parts which were the muscles which were respiring anaerobically now start respiring aerobically. As a result, a lot of energy is produced, and glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water completely, and we are getting a lot of energy. Okay, so we do not feel tired. That is, again aerobic respiration has started. One question is asked in board exam that suppose a deer is running fast and it is being chased by a tiger or a leopard, and suddenly if it gets tired and lactic acid is formed, what will happen? You can write the answer that because of fatigue and because of muscular contraction, there may be muscular cramps, and because of muscular cramps, it is possible that deer who was running faster may have to stop suddenly, as happens in case of us also. Sometimes when we are walking, suddenly we have a cramp and we have to stop. It is all because of anaerobic respiration. So that deer will have to stop suddenly, and the leopard will attack the deer. So I think this is all about working of human respiratory system, and everything is clear to you. In my next video, we will take circulatory system. Thank you so much, children.